continue. So what?
As I was saying, you were like a toddler who needed a nap yesterday. So you look like you
Yeah.
got a nap.
Thank you. I got a real night's sleep and some coffee this morning. And this is my second. I was on a Teams meeting for work earlier, now doing this and rolling right along.
Good.
How are you?
And your computer, we did the best podcast ever, like in the
Oh
history
my
of
God.
podcast of
Yes. See,
podcasts, and your computer restarted and
for those
erased it
listening,
all.
for
We'll
those
never be
listening,
able to do that again.
right? So for those listening along, Robyn and I were actually talking last night. It's probably best though, because I didn't actually hear the playback.
Dude,
I
I
was
was
not,
kidding. It wasn't the best, but you're supposed to say it was the best.
well, I was not my normal belt fed self. Let's put it that way.
No,
And
like I said, you were a toddler in need of a nap.
right. And my computer decided that was a good time to restart, and it didn't save it. So I was oh so pissed. So
Were you?
eh,
Were you really? Or were
I
you
was
just tired?
I was tired.
I feel like you were too tired to be pissed.
So
Anyway, so I guess so you watched the interview with Harry and Meghan, which is still news today. It
I know
hasn't
it's still
died
going on.
down.
I
I
think it
know.
played a day later in the UK than it did here, so that's why it's got more legs.
Actually, people watched it. Like they said that they had record numbers of people watching at like 3 a.m. or something crazy. So
Wow. Yeah, her
yeah.
dad has come out about it. Like there's people on both sides. So I don't,
Well, her dad's a douchebag. He
well, I
sold
don't,
his story for like $75,000. Like he was trying to profit off the royals. So her dad is a non-starter in that
yeah, I'm
regard,
not
and she's been
too,
estranged from him.
yeah, I'm not too much on commiserating with other people's problems and issues and stuff like that. But I don't know, it's kind of sad. Um, I've been watching The Crown for context, and it's definitely, if The Crown is to be believed, this kind of stuff right here is epidemic in that family. Now, again, The Crown is Hollywood. Now, it's fact based. There's a lot of actual history in there, and they're kind of careful to show you what's real and what, if you're paying attention, what actually happened in history and what didn't. But that family has a history of it being unkind to the new folks. So Diana had a hard time.
I usually have no interest in the royal family. I'm not a royal family watcher, but I really
Right.
feel for them. I'm definitely team Harry and Meghan. And the fact that she asked for help, that she was literally suicidal,
Mm,
and she asked for help and was denied help, not just paying for help, but she was denied the ability to get help,
right.
is astonishing. And I've seen a lot of people making fun of that, like, oh, how can you be suicidal when you live in a fucking castle? Well, you may be making fun, but like it's been pointed out, Meghan Markle's not going to hear you, but the people around you who may be dealing with things are going to hear you. So don't be a dick. Not
Diana
you, but just
definitely,
people. Like, kills me that people are making fun of her for that.
right. Diana definitely had issues marrying into that family. She was bulimic and had, mental health issues and whatever else. So yeah, it that's got to be a tough, even though, yes, the lifestyle, the houses, the cars, the jet set lifestyle, whatever, you're also in a fishbowl. So, which you're not
And a
busting
bird
rocks
cage.
and doing construction for a living, but it's not exactly, an easy, I don't know if it's necessarily as easy a life as people think. So,
Yeah, I think they were smart to get away. And like I said last night on the world's best podcast that will never be heard, I don't know why we care about famous people who are famous simply because they were born into a family.
right.
Um, I just don't understand the fascination with royals. They were born into a family. That's it.
And we
End of
here in
story.
America threw off the yoke of the crown with their ancestor, King George III, when he decided to raise taxes on tea, and we shot him over it. Okay.
So why are we so obsessed with it?
That's what I'm
Like,
saying.
why are we so obsessed with it? Yeah. Again, best of luck to them, but I feel like royal families shouldn't even be a thing. So,
They're interesting to me for the historical aspect of it. Their day-to-day stuff that goes on now, I don't care much about.
there's a lot of history that's fascinating that I don't
True.
think we need to continue.
True.
So I haven't watched it. I might watch it. I don't know. I really don't care.
I mean, they're
get
showing the
exposed.
highlights. You can probably YouTube it and catch the high points without the commercials, and
Yeah,
Now
I'd
I
probably
will
rather
say
watch
this.
TikTok.
I will say this. There was the point at which she said that somebody in the firm, as they refer to it, and they've gone back and cleared this up. It was not the Queen and not Prince Philip, the Queen's husband, that made mention of
Which begs the question, like, I'm sure we could narrow down who it was. It
Right.
wasn't a secretary. It wasn't, it was somebody big, but yeah, they did say it wasn't the Queen.
So
and
they were
Prince
concerned
Philip.
about the skin tone of
The skin color of
the
the
baby's
baby.
skin color could be. And Oprah, it was the worst acting job I've ever seen Oprah do when she was acting shocked. Like she didn't know that was coming. Like I guarantee you she knew the answer to that question was already coming. But yeah, it was. And then my daughter posted something that was pretty funny. She posted a picture. It was a kind of a meme of several members of the royal family that aren't exactly the most attractive people in the world, and they were like, these people were worried about what the baby might look like, question mark. It was
right. Yeah, I saw some of those yesterday.
Yeah, that family could probably use a shot of some outside blood, mixing things up a little bit. So
yeah, so that's the royals.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't really yeah. Is it couldn't care less or could care less?
I think I could care less, but I choose not to, is how I look at it.
Yeah.
I could not in any way care less, however.
I would rather talk about college basketball, if that tells you how much I care, because I don't care about college basketball.
Oh, too much.
What else is going on in the world?
Baylor's doing well in basketball. That's all I know. That's the only one I got. I don't even know how my old school is doing in college basketball. That's if that tells you.
Again, like, what else could we talk about that could make me want to run for the hills?
Other than the Royals, there's absolutely nothing else going on in the world.
You'd think by looking at Twitter that
there's
that's
no
the
pandemic.
Case.
All the politicians are holding hands and singing "Kumbaya."
Yeah. The stimulus package got passed in the Senate, so it goes back to the House.
Mm-hmm.
And then gets signed, and it's almost the same amount, it's the same amount as Trump's tax cuts for big business in 2017, like Amazon and whatnot. So that's interesting. It's a huge amount, but that was too, and that trickled down to less than 1% of the quote unquote middle class. So it'll be interesting to see what this does.
Hold on, everybody's taxes went down. My taxes
temporarily, but they're actually going up after this year. And if they choose to keep the tax cuts, and that was actually separate from the package I'm talking about his business package. But if they choose to keep the tax cut that we all got, that was temporary. Trump did that, and he wanted it to expire if he was no longer president. Your taxes will go up. It's not Joe Biden's fault. It's that was a temporary tax cut. And then your taxes are supposed to actually go up to pay for that temporary tax cut. So
the way you pay for a tax cut is you cut spending. So government learns to do without all the new shiny BS that they don't really need. I'm looking at you, every single agency in the federal government. So I've had more than one government employee tell me, if you love your country and you're any kind of patriot whatsoever, don't work for the federal government. So, it's depressing. So
we just shouldn't have a government.
No, we should have government.
Have streets and Social Security.
I'm given to understand. Well, okay, so if I were going to do anything,
Medicare,
Medicaid. I promise you, they're overstaffed and undermotivated. I know for a fact they're undermotivated because I have a family member that was just dealing with them. So you let about 25% of that workforce go. The rest of them will pucker and get back to work.
I thought it was really hard for you guys to get a hold of anybody.
It was.
Oh, well, that says
there's
that, not
but then they also had
people.
So I had a family member going through stuff dealing with these federal agencies, and we're literally hearing things like, you can't get anything done unless it goes through me. They heard that from a government employee. I can't do this in 15 minutes, so I'm not going to. That was said. It's just various things like that. And they
Did
were
you hear those things being said, or they said they were said?
They were said by both members of the people that that I was talking to, so I verified it that way. When
Okay.
both of them told me that they heard it, they heard it.
Yeah.
So
no, I believe you then.
So they heard a lot of basically government employees being government employees. I don't have to, so I ain't gonna. So we had to do an end run around that. So and it's unfortunate that the end run had to be done, but it
So
did.
anyway, stimulus package.
Yeah.
Set to be passed.
Mm-hmm.
So you've done your taxes. You'll get your $1,400.
Yeah, I got my taxes back, my 2020 tax refund back the other day. So,
dude, I have not gotten a refund in years. I don't even know what that's like.
Well, it wasn't super major, but
but you didn't owe. I don't
correct.
even know what that was like.
I've been in that situation too.
Georgia passed I think their legislature passed something yesterday that was in effect banning mail-in voting. I can't speak. I need coffee. Mail-in voting. Did you see that?
No.
Republicans have introduced.
Bad news day for me.
Yeah, Republicans have introduced over 200 bills since January trying to limit voting, and Georgia passed one of them. I'll be curious. I'm sure it'll get hit with lawsuits because it was trying to ban pretty much all mail-in voting. It's banning, I'll have to look. It was trying to ban Saturday voting, early voting. Like basically it's really trying to limit voting.
Okay, so I'm personally in favor of early voting. Saturday voting is kind of, I don't care too one way or the other. If the local county governments, if Saturday works for them and they can do it and pull it off and all that kind of stuff, I don't really care. Now,
I question why. Why would you try to ban mail-in voting?
The country of France
and Saturday voting.
The country of France has banned mail-in voting because of fraud. So
Colorado has used mail-in voting for almost the last decade, and we've got less than a dozen cases of fraud with mail-in
that you know about.
Oh, you're right. There's probably billions.
Could be.
That's bullshit.
Could be.
There could be aliens walking amongst us who are really lizards. But
I bet if I had the time, I could go find some addresses that don't exist.
So you do mail-in voting.
I did this past year, but I exist.
Yeah, but when's the last time you were in Texas?
About a couple months before I voted.
When's next time you're going to live in Texas?
Could be a while.
But you still vote as a Texan.
It would probably be before the next election. Now, I don't know if it'll be before the 2022 election.
But you weren't living in Texas and you voted as a Texan, and you're still not living in Texas, but you'll still try to vote as a Texan.
No, not necessarily. If I'm here in 2022, it depends on where my vote is, like
where it counts the most.
Yeah, basically. So if I'm in
so
Michigan,
why do you get to do that?
Colorado, I exist in an address that exists. So if I have a residency in Michigan and John, what's his name, runs for Senate in the state of Michigan, and I feel like I can be useful or whatever he runs for. Can't think of his name off the top of my head. Anyway, then I would gladly campaign in the state of Michigan and register to vote here and all that kind of business and then do all that. So, but if we move back to wherever, then that's where I'll vote.
But if you're still in Michigan and there's a big race there's a big race in Texas. Are you?
Well, there is going to be. There will be, because the governor will be up this time. But I'm not going to vote I'm not going to vote in the 2022 governor's race if I'm living out of state. I voted this past election because I had literally just moved to Colorado, and my driver's license, my truck registration, my mail still went there, all of that other business, and it was too big of a pain in the butt for me to switch all of that over in time for the election. There's no guarantee that I would have gotten to vote. So, my taxes were filed I paid taxes in 2020 in Texas and all of that other business. So I was then, at the time I voted in this past election, I was still a Texas resident. I just was out of state. So, which is different than saying I was at a address that didn't exist or any number of other things that
I
has
don't think that happens. And actually, and we've talked about this in Colorado, they do signature verification. Grace's signature looked slightly different, and so she had to jump through hoops for her vote to count. And Colorado is primarily mail-in, and they check that. So I think you should quit your job and you should devote your entire life to trying to find fraud in Colorado.
if I
And
could
you
get
let me
sponsored,
know.
if I
You
could
let
get
me know how that
sponsored, I
works.
would. Gonna need to be able to earn the old living though, so.
Yeah, it you wouldn't find it. So,
Mm,
and actually, some of the cases that came out, Mike Pence is working for the Heritage Foundation,
okay.
and they pinpointed 20 cases of verified fraud in this last election,
Mm-hmm.
like verified could be prosecuted fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say 12 of those were Republicans.
It's possible.
So they were looking for fraud. Oh, and speaking of, last cases got thrown out of court yesterday or
Mm-hmm.
denied,
Mm-hmm.
that Trump was bringing for fraud. So,
Mm-hmm. Well, there's nothing they can do about it at this point. I mean, Biden's the president. We got to do what we got to do. So the analogy I give for all this situation is from the movie $1 Million Baby, when the Clint Eastwood movie where he was training a female fighter and she was fighting this other female and
Hillary Swank.
Hillary Swank. Thank you. I couldn't think of the actress's name. Um, Hillary Swank was a great fighter, a good fighter, but she was losing this one particular fight, and she gets back in the corner and she's like, "Boss, she's killing me, blah 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 blah." And Eastwood looks at her and goes, "That's because she's a better fighter than you are. What are you going to do about it?" And then the bell rings and she goes out and kicks her ass. So, Republicans, that's because we got our ass kicked this last time. What are we going to do about it? Stop looking at November. We got to be looking at 22 and 24 now. I'm not worried about. I don't give a damn about Trump 2020 anymore. I'm looking forward. So
I
what are
think
we
you
going
look
to do?
forward by doing better and being better, not by suppressing voters.
No, nobody's suppressing voters.
There's 220 cases out there. And it's
And you
interesting
can
because
still, every living, breathing American that is able to vote, is eligible to vote in America, can vote. There's no poll taxes or reading tax or any of that other kind of stuff. People have different
no, but
rules.
there's 220 cases or bills out there to suppress voting, to
And
close
they'll
voting
see
in
whether or not
states.
they get through and stand up under the Supreme Court. It took Texas years to get voter ID. I had to show ID to get on an airplane the other day, but I can go choose the next president without an ID. So
That's because an airplane isn't your constitutional right, but voting is.
there's voting isn't mentioned in the Constitution as a right. So
Actually, you're
anyway,
right, because if we go back to the original Constitution, you couldn't vote and I couldn't vote.
probably true. Probably true. Although I would have worked a way into it or something by now.
Oh,
So anyway, that's enough on that. How's the dog?
oh, he's great. We just walked 4 miles before this, so
You
he's
took that dog
tired.
4 miles or
Oh yeah,
the new dog?
yeah, absolutely.
So for those listening along, if you live in the state of Colorado, we have a dog that is up for adoption, or Robyn does rather. And we are.
But I am the world's pickiest because I want the world's best family for him. He needs, and I've already said it, he needs dinks, needs double income, no kids, 40 or 50 somethings who are going to call him their fur baby. They're going to let him on their couch. They're going to take him to breweries. They're going to take him hiking. Like, he needs that. He does not need to be a dog in the yard that you occasionally feed and water.
No, and double income, no kids. Probably older kids would be fine, but definitely not like
Older
2-year-olds.
kids.
Not
I'm not a
toddlers.
fan. We talked about this yesterday too. I'm not a fan of dogs with young kids.
No.
I know, and he's actually very sweet, and he's been around kids as young as 6, and he's very sweet. But kids are erratic, and you just can't predict what they're going to do. And all it takes is one gouging in the eye or one pulling of the ball sack, and they get seriously, they get
I
bit.
know.
And
it just made me wince to think about it, though.
I know. And
wait,
so
wait.
I think you set dogs up for failure if you put them with small kids. So yeah, I probably wouldn't let them go to a family. Like, I get to interview them and meet and do a meet and greet. And so I may have them for a bit because I'm super picky.
We need to post pictures on the Exit the Echo Chamber side of the Instagram too, so more people can see him. If you're eligible for the adoption part. He is a great dog. We think he might be part pit bull, but I want to be clear about that. He is not a pit bull dog. He is a head that's shaped like one, but he's
Oh,
also
he's got a
mixed.
big old blockhead, but
He does have a big old blockhead that
but
kind
he's
of
got a
resembles that.
Basenji tail. He's
Def,
definitely a weird mix.
blonde colored dog with a curled tail. He is a mixed breed dog. Might have been some pit in there, but I've played with that dog and wrestled
Oh,
with
I
him and
think
all
pits
that.
can be some of the best dogs,
Yep.
honestly. Like some of the best dogs that I've had have been pit mixes, but yeah, he doesn't have an aggressive bone in his body.
Yeah.
And I'd probably keep him except for my pug wants to kill him.
And the
Um,
yeah, Mutsy is a territorial little snot.
if she was bigger and had more teeth, she would have been labeled aggressive a long time ago.
Right. Well, going back to what you said about pits, the issue I've never seen an issue with a pit that it wasn't the owner that I'm
Yeah.
aware of.
Yeah. No, it's less genetics with them and more behavioral, like what they've been taught.
Right.
And actually, there are a lot of more and more insurance companies they used to ban breeds, and they wouldn't insure you if you had certain breeds. And actually, I think every county in Colorado that had breed specific bans has lifted them. Denver just recently did it. I think in the fall elections, Denver was one of the last ones. So there used to be at least 3 counties I know of that had breed specific bans where you could not own a dog that if it was even part pit bull and they could prove it, you had to get rid of it. So yeah, they've gotten rid of that because science has proven that they're no more aggressive. Do you know what the most aggressive dog and the most dog bites? Do you know what breed it is?
If I had to guess, I'd say Chihuahua.
Yes. Yes. They are the most aggressive and they are responsible for the majority of dog bites every year. And I know it's funny because they're like 6 pounds, but they can do damage. And they're the ones.
They are Chihuahuas. There's some of them. I have known some sweet Chihuahuas, Zeus being one of them. But oh my God, I've seen some. My stepdad's parents had one when we were kids named Snoopy. And Snoopy was just a tenacious
terror.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
We had a Chihuahua when I was a kid named Margarita. That's a funny story that I won't share here. But she loved my sister and lived to try to kill me. Like one of my distinct memories when we had that dog was trying to figure out how to get down our very long hallway from the living room to my bedroom without getting bitten. And I also knew how to jump on furniture to get from the formal living room to the kitchen, to the dining room, to the family room. And then I had to make a run for it. But I knew how to get through 3 or 4 of those rooms without ever touching the floor because she couldn't jump up if I was on the furniture. So yeah, I've known vicious dogs.
Vicious dogs.
So what else is what?
You had a thing on TikTok yesterday.
Did you have nightmares about that last night?
No, I didn't have nightmares about it, but I'm going to go by the ag store and get me some ivermectin today because of this. So
no,
go ahead. Please start.
Oh, well, first of all, I take back everything I ever said about TikTok. I love TikTok. It is such a good escape. I am a better dog trainer. I'm firmer in my political beliefs, and I know a lot of new songs.
Okay.
No, TikTok's fun. Actually, it's just fun. I still think it's horrible for developing minds. I think anything on a screen is horrible for developing minds, but TikTok's a ton of fun. But I was watching a woman who apparently got roundworms from packaged salads. I won't name the company that she named because I don't want to get sued. But
tell me off air so I don't go buy those salads.
Well, I don't think you buy those anyway. But literally, that's what her doctor traced it back to. And yeah, so then it was funny that I saw that, and at the very same day, I also saw. I have a friend who is very. She's a COVID denier, doesn't believe in it, and not going to name names, but there's somebody on her Facebook page who was talking about how he went out and bought, is it Invectrum? Is that how you say it?
The one that I have seen posted more than any of the rest of them is called ivermectin or Ivamec commonly.
Okay. Well, he went out and bought it at the local like Big R or feed store.
Sure.
And he said, just put a dollop on a cracker every day and it'll keep you healthy. So I, of course, had to look it up because I thought, who puts roundworm medicine on a cracker. And the companies that make it all clearly say, do not use horse or dog medicine on yourself. So PSA, don't go to Big R and buy that and put a dollop on a cracker. That is not healthcare.
So with dogs, before, I have used ivermectin for the dog purposes and seen it used for it is a dewormer. And the funny part about this story is
not a worm.
Last night you had told me about this story about a salad, and I had literally within 3 minutes before this story, just finished a prepackaged salad that I got at the store, and I was like, wait a minute.
I don't even think I started telling you. I was listening to it when you came on the Zoom call, and you were like, what are you listening to? And it was that part where I was trying to like go fast because I didn't want you to hear what I was listening to this woman talk about worms. But yeah.
So I have a legitimate reason to go get some Ivomec now because I'm worried about worms. Not for COVID. It's not going to work for COVID, people. COVID is not going to be affected by Ivomec. I'm sorry.
And I just really think that you do not need to buy your medicine at Big R.
What?
That's a whole different conversation. Maybe.
But honey, it's cheaper.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. All right. Do you want to solve any of the world's problems? Do you want to talk about any more current events? I got lots.
The murder trial, and it's not the George Floyd murder trial. He was the victim.
Look at you. Thank you.
I had to write this dude's name down because I can't remember his name. George Floyd.
Right. Derek. Is it Chauvin? Is that how you say it? Derek Chauvin?
Chauvin or Chauvin? I don't know.
This is what happens when you don't watch
mainstream
news. Yeah.
Right.
When you don't have cable.
Agreed.
Yeah, his trial, they said the judge said he actually wants it to start today. Like he was done with these shenanigans. Right. I think it's because they're trying to put a possible third-degree murder charge on him.
As I understand it, and I could be wrong on this, but as I understand it, they were trying to stack an additional third-degree murder. And I honestly, it would probably depend on what state you were in. Don't know how you stack a third-degree murder charge on top of a second-degree murder charge. It's either there's only one murder, so how do you get two charges out of the same? I don't completely understand that. So he's charged with second degree. Supposedly they were trying to add a third degree. Maybe, and if they caught him on one, maybe the prosecution is doing it in case their case isn't strong enough to get one, they can get him on the other. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. And that could be it because double jeopardy. Maybe if they
because they don't get one shot at this. So
yeah.
We'll see how that goes. But yeah, as I understand it, it was going to take them weeks and weeks to do the jury pool, which I can imagine would be a nightmare. So everybody's
heard about it. It's whether or not you can actually choose to remain impartial until you hear the evidence, which I'm sure would be very hard.
Right.
Because we all have opinions.
Right. Well, you were saying you'd been called for jury duty at some point, and
twice in like 20 years. That's it.
Been a while. And then when I was a state employee in Brazos County, I was getting called. I got there for a couple of years there. I was getting called up at a pretty good clip. Now I never got selected because they would find out I was a correctional officer and send me on my merry way. But
I've never gotten selected, and I wonder if it's because I look like I want to be on the jury, and they're like, "Oh, that one was crazy." Because I'm like, hell yeah, I want to see how this works. I want to be part of this.
This woman has a house full of cats, so.
I do not.
No.
But seriously, I would love to be on a jury. And I guess they can feel that. So they're like, oh, this is spooky. Nobody wants to be on a jury.
Even when I was at the height of working in prisons and stuff, I have always believed in the right to a fair trial, no matter what you're accused of, whatever, because I know there are false accusations that do happen. And cops do make mistakes. I love cops, but they're human, so they make mistakes. And, people's rights have to be followed because that's pretty much the cornerstone of the foundation that everything is based on. Right. So we can't have people if you plead guilty or you take a deal or whatever, that's your business. That's your right.
That's right. It's apples and oranges.
I'm a firm believer in the right to a fair trial. And good people need to be on juries because, as it was James Yeager that pointed this out, more law is decided because of case law, as for precedent in courts than actual legislation. So good people need to be on juries when other people are accused of crimes for criminal and civil cases.
So if anybody listening has the ability, I would love to be on a jury. Love it.
It would depend on
I have a friend who just got called, and she's actually worried that she's going to be on a really well publicized murder trial.
They're
which
in
that would be
Colorado.
hard if you're, huh?
In Colorado.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a woman who is accused of killing her 12-year-old stepson. And
Oh
there
no.
was, it happened last spring, and there
Mm.
were people searching for him for weeks. She said he had never come home from a friend's house, and obviously that was not the case. Neighbors had ring cameras and whatnot that showed her with him. But yeah, I would hate to be on a trial like that, because that
That's
would be so
rare when you
hard,
have
and
a.
that would be weeks, if not months.
It's a bit of a rare case that you would have a stepmom killing a stepson, especially at that age. Usually, I won't go too far down this rabbit hole, but patricide happens, but it's usually a different age bracket.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
interesting. No, the one time I was hoping to get on the jury, they didn't let me on it because it was, and I was going to let them. I had my mind made up. My mind was
oh yeah, you
made
told me
up.
about this.
They were accused. It was some college kids accused of some alcohol thing, and I wasn't. They probably did it. That wasn't what I was upset about. I was upset about the fact that we were spending this time and effort prosecuting these, kids for doing what college kids do, and it was going to a jury trial. And I'm like, are you kidding me here? So I was like, I'm so letting them off. I will.
Yeah,
I was a state employee.
that's a waste of taxpayer money if it wasn't a violent crime. If it wasn't.
Right. So the advantage of being a state employee, if you did get jury duty, was I could hang up a jury for 6 months, and all of my state time and salary and everything just kept on rolling. There was they can't lose anything.
I thought you hated government overspending and waste, and thought things could be trimmed down.
No. If you're on the jury, I'm not talking about government waste and overspending. If you're on a jury trial, say it was on a murder case or whatever, I didn't have to say guilty or not guilty because I felt the pressure of the room. If the vote was 11-1 me, and I didn't think dude was guilty, I could sit there and talk about it for a while and not have to worry about getting back to work, or somebody going to be pissed, or am I going to lose my job or whatever.
Because you're going to make your government pay regardless.
I was going to get paid regardless. So yes, I've been a state employee, but the state got their money out of me. I've got the literal scars to prove it. So
hey, I got to go to work.
What?
I got to go to work.
Oh,
I just looked at the time.
We have these things called jobs that we got to do.
Yeah, I just looked at the time. I got to go get ready for work.
I got to do some driving today, actually, too. I've got to be up in the state a little bit further north than I am. So, I got to do all that.
All right.
I'm sure worried about Megan and Harry, though. We'll see how,
Yeah, let me know how you're feeling about that.
I'm going to call them and find out how they're doing. Okay? I'm going to handle that for you. And as usual, Robyn is correct.
Brian is right. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.